Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to our very first episode of EDspresso Café, brought to you by Purple ZA. My name is Lindsay and this is Irene, and we are so thrilled that you've joined us for our very first ever episode of short, sharp, inspiring shots, the perfect pick-me-up to keep you inspired and on top of your teacher game as we head into 2021. Because, let's be honest,
honestly, 2020, can we just have a moment, Lindsay, on that was quite a year. And look, 2021 is not looking much better at the start of it, right? And we need all the inspiration that we can get.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if 2020 taught us anything, it is to pivot and to breathe and just kind of figure it out as we go along. So, and now we're sitting here with, are we online? Are we in person? What's happening? When are schools opening? Are they opening? How do we teach? I mean, you told me just yesterday that you had to redo an entire lesson because you now have to do it online and you planned it for in person.
Yeah, exactly. And it is kind of having to plan for the unplannable, right? And how do we do that? Because and I'm sure there are things that you can do online and there are other things that you can do at school, but you kind of want to know where you're going to be. And now that schools are opening, perhaps even on the 1st of Feb, we are learning to pivot again.
It's crazy, right? And I think it makes it so tough for teachers because I almost feel like you have to have two different lesson plans, right? You have to have one lesson plan for one scenario and then another lesson plan for if you have to do it online or the children are not at school. Yeah. This is ridiculous. How do we navigate this? How do we figure this out?
True. Although I do think, I mean, any good lesson, I suppose, for me anyway, has like 4 parts to it. I always think there's like the wake up the kids part, right? That let them forget about their maths lesson where they just were and focus on your lesson, be there, be alive. No offense, maths people. And then there's the stuff you need to teach them, the content, the concepts that you want to talk about. Then there's the part where they use what they just learned, their new knowledge, and they apply it in various situations, or you have class discussions and so on. And then there's the evaluation, the assessment part, right? Did they actually learn it? So I think I suppose if you can have that in mind, kind of a recipe.
So hang on a second. Are you saying that, I mean, maybe it's because I'm drinking a nice coffee here, but it's almost like when you think about a lesson, it's thinking about making yourself that perfect cuppa, right? So first you've got to put the kettle on, right? So you've got to power the students on, you've got to get them with you, you've got to hook them in, you've got to make them curious. And then... Yep, flip the switch, exactly. Then you've got to add the good stuff, right? So if you're like me, you do not believe in gravel, you've got to put proper granules or a proper pod in the machine. You've got to give them the, the goods that they need, right? The ingredients that they need to learn. And of course, then you've got to add the water and then you've got to let it percolate, right? So that learning's got to kind of consolidate. It's got to sink in. They've got to grasp the concepts and apply it. And then, of course, the proof is always in the taste of the cuppa, right? You've got to taste it, you've got to sip it, you've got to check, has learning happened? They've got to give some kind of demonstration or evidence of the way they've learned, right?
Absolutely. And I think there is a way in which you can actually keep in mind whether you're going to be on site or online, and you can swap out activities or use platforms differently in both those areas. So, for example, if you're thinking about in the classroom, right, what might you use for that first part to switch them on? Teachers, you could have a provocation, like a picture that you'll take out, do a visible thinking routine, and you'll say, what do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder, right? Or an explosion of some sorts, if you're a science teacher. Am I right? And online,
I think online, for me, one of the key things is we still need that spark, right? We still need that hook. But the great and the really important thing is that we need our kids to make their thinking visible to us, right? So we need to use things like a collaborative slideshow, collaborative PowerPoint, or a Jamboard, and actually have our students share what they're seeing and what they're thinking and what they're wearing in a collaborative space, right? That's such an amazing thing to do. And immediately you've got them all looking, all attentive, all visible, and all hopefully with you for the rest of the learning, right?
Absolutely. And then if you for the teaching part of a lesson, really explaining the content and those concepts, teachers, sometimes you do a talk and chalk. What can you do, right? Sometimes you might show a video which you'll pause, you'll chat through, so kids can discover some of the content. And I'm sure you know some ways to do that.
Exactly. So all of that kind of traditional teaching, give the input, give the content, especially things like video. When you're teaching online, there are these amazing tools like Edpuzzle, where you can literally put your voice into certain points in the video. You can embed questions in it. You can put links in it. So it's not this like sit back and watch the video and fall asleep. It keeps them totally engaged. And then if you were going to give them content like a textbook or a website or something, you can use something like Insert Learning, which is a Chrome extension. And then you can actually put into any web page articles, links, questions, videos, explanations, to really actually enhance that learning. So even if you're not physically there, you can still be there alongside your students as they are getting to grips with what they're learning.
I love that. I love that you still have that teacher presence even when it is online, even when they are working independently, right? And you're not physically on the screen with them. Your influence is then still there. It's like pausing the video, like you said. And same thing with the application of what they've learned and how they apply that. And so very often in a class, you will give them some exercises to do, practice that kind of the decimals we've just learned. Or you would have class discussions, like you said, a way in which they internalize that knowledge and it becomes part of them. And I think that's one of the things that you really miss online, isn't it? That classroom discussion, the interaction.
It reminds me of this little meme that I saw with teaching primary school kids online versus teaching high school kids online on like a Zoom or a Meet or a Teams call. You ask the primary school kids and you're like, okay, everybody, can you please just keep quiet? Because they all want to tell you all of their stories. And then you ask the high school kids to engage in the discussion and it's like dead, absolute silence. Nobody is engaging, which is why I love this tool called Flipgrid, because Flipgrid allows you to collect video responses from all of your students on almost like a virtual pinboard kind of thing, where your students can see each other's video responses. They can all record at the same time. And then you can have them encourage each other, reply to each other, challenge each other. So it really gives you that, those great class discussions. It gives you an ability to do that online, but actually almost on steroids, because you have so many more conversations. And I think it's in that richness of the conversation, the grappling with the learning, the application, that's really where it comes together for our students. It's really where it connects, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is like you as a teacher, we miss them too. So you get to see their little faces, hear their voices and the quirkiness. And kids love seeing each other as well, So yeah, that's a great tool. And then obviously when you are in the classroom, you have some kind of checking, understanding, some kind of assessment to see whether they actually got it, right? The taste test, like you say, like the proof's in the pudding. And that's various ways, right? And online, Lindsay, I think actually it's a bit online this part. Don't you agree?
Totally. I think it online, with between self-marking quizzes and all of these lovely gamified tools and apps like Kahoot and Quizzes and Quizlet, we have that real competitive element, and you can take what would be a really boring static test and turn it into a really fun activity for your kiddos if they want to meet with you, on a Zoom with you, on a Teams call, or if they are, in their own homes doing it asynchronously. It's so great in terms of assessment options. And my big thing is these kids need to be using the technology that they have in their hands if they're doing online learning to be creating, right? To be creating things to demonstrate their learning. So instead of just writing an essay or doing a test, or making a project, those traditional assessments are actually quite limited. But when we start putting tech there and combining that with your pedagogy of assessment, your kids can create infographics, comic books, movies, TikTok videos, clips, advert campaigns, you name it, audio recordings, podcasts. Kids must really, really be able to create demonstrations of their learning with technology. And I think that's where we start to actually make our lives easier as teachers. So it's not an extra. We give it to them. Hey, you, show me what you know.
Yeah, exactly. Making that what they've learned visible, right? Making it, it's so much more creative and enjoyment for them. It gives joy, right? Am I right?
If we're not online teaching, what are we doing? Like we've got to have fun. We've got to spark the joy for ourselves, for our kids. And I think thinking about lesson plan in terms of those 4 components, like almost like a little recipe. Think about your cup of coffee. If you sort of plan it in parallel, it's like, all right, I'm going to hook them in. Okay, that's going to look like that in person. If I'm online, it would look like that. So it's not.
You almost want like that, like a column, right, at the end of your lesson plan. Like, I'm going to do this. If it's online, it's going to be this, and if it's on site, it's going to be this. And you need to know what those substitutes are. So you've mentioned quite a few really great substitutes, and there are so much out there that you can explore and use. So we've actually put together a little list of substitute things for you, a little takeaway down here in the comments or in the description. You can just click on that, and you'll see there's a substitute at school, and a good substitute for this kind of lesson would be these tools, right? So hopefully you enjoy that takeaway, because we do know our teachers, we do know we love a little goodie bag, even a digital one at that, right?
Absolutely. And we love teachers so much. Teachers are the absolute best humans. And People Today and Espresso Cafe exists because we want to create connections, right? We want to create connections between learning design and technology. We want to connect schools to learning themselves. We want to connect Edtech pedagogies, and also we really want to connect the best South African teachers to each other, right? Because it's in that collaboration that we have our strength and that we can totally transform education. So for us, it's really important that we're creating a space here in Espresso Cafe. I see some of our peeps there in the chat, chatting away and connecting with other people that they haven't met yet. That's really what we want to be doing here with these Espresso Cafes.
And we want to do that very quickly, right? We want you to grab a cup of coffee, listen to an episode or join us for an episode of Espresso Cafe literally in 15 minutes. Be inspired by these wonderful educators and teachers, like you say, that we know and do fantastic work. Have a little interview with them, showcase their work, see what they're doing, and grow the connections that way.
We have the most fabulous teacher, Ilonka Pool. She's an Afrikaans teacher, and she is going to be chatting to Irene about gamification of Afrikaans lessons.
Exactly. And I think I wanted to...
She's done such amazing things, hasn't she?
She has an amazing thing. She's created sites and a whole gamified platform for her students to really explore through the Star Wars themes, all kinds of like Afrikaans grammar, like being an Afrikaans teacher myself or an ex-Afrikaans teacher. Look, those teachers we have to build monuments for, right? Because you've got to dig deep. There's no information out there or resources. So yes,
I think we should build monuments for teachers, but absolutely. And Ilonka's done. Her lessons are so fun. I mean, I think that for me is such a key thing.
Absolutely. Her lessons spark joy for me. When I look at it, I just think it's really amazing.
So you might know that Irene and I are massive fans of Marie Kondo. If you haven't heard about her yet, you can go and Google her. But we totally believe that lessons should absolutely spark joy. So actually next week, we are starting a webinar series running on Thursday afternoons at 3 o'clock called Lessons That Spark Joy, where we're going to be looking at existing lessons, the stuff we've done, the things that doesn't spark joy, things that don't really energize and bring us together and keep our kids with us, right? And we're going to look at how we can design lessons that spark joy both for in-person and online learning. So if you want to join us for that, you'll also find the link in the description below. We'd love to see you guys on that webinar as you journey with us. And we also have a fun feature-focused Fridays. So if Thursdays not your thing, you can come and join us on Friday. We've got a whole series of fun feature focused Fridays coming up on TeachFix, and we would just love to take the time to unpack some of these ideas with you, to walk you through step by step and really empower you to level up learning in your classrooms this year. So that is what we would love to be sharing with you in the next couple of weeks. But we do hope that you will tune in for our very next episode on Thursday this week at 3 o'clock to learn from Ilonka and how she is leveling up learning in her Afrikaans class. But until then, keep breathing, keep pivoting.
Keep pivoting, people. Cheers.
And keep your chin up.